hear many Malaysians want to leave Malaysia to work in overseas. Immediately, what comes to my mind is Singapore. Because Singapore near ma, just cross the bridge, then you sampai di. And actually over time, many of my friends chose to go to work in Singapore and settle down there. Many of them say that when you work in Singapore, you actually have a higher pay and also better opportunity in career growth.
Of course, Singapore being the financial and capital hub of ASEAN, you have a lot of mega deals and deals that comes through the pipeline. In a way, through being in Singapore, I was exposed to a lot of deals that would otherwise normally be constrained to international markets.
This is Hann. He began his career as a lawyer in Singapore, and later he came back to Malaysia to work as a chief strategy officer. But some of you may have heard of him under the name of Tradeview, a prominent investment blogger and a top-selling author. Okay? Go and check out this book, okay? Top selling in MPH. So we got him here today because he is one of the few people that I know who chose to came back to Malaysia to continue building his career despite the fact that he started off working in Singapore. Most people that I know who went to work in Singapore usually would just stay put there. Many of them even end up being a Singapore citizen. For some of us, especially our fellow Johorian friends, Singapore is actually just a cross over the bridge. But for most Malaysians, if we want to work in Singapore, we still have to leave our families behind. So, is this move really worth it? Is it really much better to actually work in Singapore?
Singapore is a great place to start a career. It provides a very good opportunity for those who want to build a corporate career. So if you want to climb the corporate ladder, career progression, opportunities are afforded if you start off in Singapore.
Yeah, certainly. Singapore being a global financial hub and home to many big corporations, it's a great place to begin a corporate career. At least that's what I've been hearing again and again. The corporate ladder there does seem to provide a better and faster progression if you are good in what you do. But if you've spoken to your friends who actually work there, you will know that it's not that simple. You see, Singaporeans are well known to be competitive. You would have probably heard many people use the word kiasu to describe Singaporeans.
Kiasu. Very kiasu. Singaporeans are just naturally kiasu.
Now, there's nothing bad about being competitive. It's actually a good thing. It is this spirit of competitiveness that built up Singapore to be a very productive society. And that is why they are one of the highest income nations in the world today. But having said that, this doesn't mean that Malaysians are more lazy. Actually, when you work in a multinational corporation in Malaysia, you may end up working equally long hours as working in Singapore.
However, maybe I would say productivity is something that is very much emphasized in Singapore. Whereas Malaysia still do have some space for work-life balance depending on which sector you are. In Malaysia, we have certain companies that afford very good work-life balance culture and all. In Singapore, even if there's a company that does so, few people want to observe it. That's why we always hear stories where even women are reluctant to have children or start a family because they're afraid it will affect their career. In a way, even though these benefits are given in Singapore, a lot of people are still willing to forego or sacrifice these benefits in order to climb and progress in their career. They wouldn't want to be replaced by the next talent that's lining up to take up their job.
Yeah, actually, not much of difference 2 days only ma. Malaysia work 5 days, Singapore 7 days. Okay, joke aside. The pressure is real there. I've heard this from many of my friends who said the exact same thing. It is like this invisible pressure that keeps pushing you forward and stretching you. It doesn't allow you to rest. People dare not rest when they work there, especially if you're the kind of person who want to pursue a high growth in your career. So the point is this, going to work in Singapore, yes, you get higher pay and better corporate progression and opportunities, but you can almost literally say goodbye to your lifestyle, you know?
So long, farewell.
So, does it mean that you should stay back here or come back to Malaysia? What are the opportunities here? Things doesn't seem to be very good. And if you're already working in Singapore, why should you even consider coming back to Malaysia?
I think this is a very personal decision, but there are a few similarities I believe people who come back to Malaysia from overseas can relate to. I think number one would be family. This is where people closest to us are around. If your family is willing to relocate to other countries, you will have less of a problem. Number two is, of course, I have a strong sense of attachment to Malaysia as a country. Whatever people may say about Malaysia, it is still a wonderful and blessed country. I believe a lot in the potential of the people, and I enjoy and I'm very comfortable in this country. The politics may be toxic, But that aside, I believe that Malaysia actually holds a lot of potential to become a great country in this part of the world. I like to see myself building my own business, running my own enterprise, and this opportunity is much more accessible in Malaysia compared to Singapore. Reason being because Singapore is a very small area, and the cost of starting a business in Singapore is much higher compared to the cost in Malaysia.
Okay, I agree. Malaysia does provide an easier pathway if you would like to start a business. That's why we see many Singaporeans do business here in Malaysia. But for people who are planning to start a business here, please don't take Malaysians as a cheap labor, okay? Pay a fair wage and invest to develop Malaysians. Now, but having said that, this doesn't mean that Malaysia has very little when it comes to career growth as an employee. Yes, we may not have that many multinational companies HQ here compared to in Singapore, but we do have roles here in those companies that provide you with good international exposure as well. But you may have less of this kind of positions in here compared to in Singapore. Despite their disadvantages, working in Malaysia does provide some unique opportunities because of its disadvantages. If you are smart and hardworking, you may end up doing very well here.
You're getting promoted.
I recall reading this book called David on Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell. In one of the sections, he talked about how bright students will always choose to go to the best universities. In his book, he proposed a theory called Big Fish, Small Pond. The idea is this: it is better to be a best student in a lesser known university than a poor student in a top and prestigious university. His findings suggest that while there are many bright students who end up entering into prestigious universities like Harvard and MIT, these top high school students are just average students there, and this eventually demotivated and demoralized them. In contrast, those top students from high schools who went on to lesser known universities, many of them ended up performing much better and went on to build a high-flying career in their industries. If you want to learn more about that, go and check out his book and read about it. It's a pretty good one. I know a friend who graduated from Cambridge University but chose to work in a Tier 2 consulting firm instead of Tier 1 firms like McKinsey or Bain. Their answer was simple. They say that if they were to go to Tier 1 firms like that, they are just one of the smartest guys. But if they go to a Tier 2 firm, they are the smartest person there. And because of that, they get to climb the career ladder much faster. Wait, does this mean that actually they are not that smart, that's why they are afraid? No! Actually, these people are equally smart. In fact, this is actually a strategic decision for them. Why? Because when they go to a smaller firm, they are likely the best there. Because of that, they will be given all the opportunities to deal with the most challenging problems. With that, they also get all the resources they need to find the solution. This becomes a great opportunity for them to build up their leadership skills and confidence. And these guys, many of them went on to build a successful career in consulting, and sometimes later in their career, they actually move into Tier 1 consulting firms and become superiors of their uni peers who were once known to be smarter than them. Now, at the end of the day is this: there are pros and cons in staying back in Malaysia or moving out of Malaysia to work in Singapore or other countries, or coming back here. The most important thing for us as an individual is this: is to find opportunities to enhance our skill set so we can become more valuable as an individual. For me, I chose to stay back in Malaysia to build a career in business for myself, that I can be the best at it. But what's for you? Tell us in the comments.